Obviously, everyone knows 3 p.m. The game is sold out. And then next week is A&F week. So next Tuesday at this time at 1:30, Marshall Yonda will be here to visit with the media for a little bit before Coach. And tomorrow our Zoom will be running backs coach Liddell Betts. So on Zoom at 11 a.m. Thank you. We'll get to Coach.
Thanks, Steve. And good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you being here. So, just looking back real quickly, as I said Saturday, really happy to get the win. It's really easy. And we certainly got stressed and got put in some pressure situations by Colorado State. So just, overall pleased with the response of our team, especially in the second half. Thought they did some good things and were able to make it a successful game and some good complimentary football, especially in that third quarter. So it was good to see. And like every week, you go through the tape, and that always shows some things. There's an awful lot of details that we need to keep working on. I don't know anything specific other than it's just a cumulative effect, and that's really, what the slight edge concept's all about. It's just trying to build and see if you can't, at some point get things to go the way you want them to go. So anyway, overall good weekend. And then to one side note, just happy for Jack Campbell. He played an excellent game. Good to see him get recognized by the Big Ten. Certainly worthy of that. And he's playing at a real high level, so happy about that. As we transition now for the Maryland game, our captains still got Tyler Linderbaum, Matt Hankins, Jack Kerner, and then Jack Campbell will be the fourth captain. So those four guys will go out for the toss, and certainly tough challenge on a lot of levels. First of all, it's a short week. We're playing a night game, and being on the road and playing a Big Ten opponent, and that's the biggest component right here, right now, is just the fact that we're playing a good Big Ten football team, no matter where it is, but certainly with the other conditions prescribed, makes it a big challenge for us right now. Coach Loxley's been there now, third year in the program, and they've got a good staff. They've clearly, recruited with a vision, recruited a lot of good athletes. They've got good size, good speed, and their schemes are, really, I think, probably what they're looking for and what they want. I think 37-plus points a game right now, giving up 14. So clearly, they're in good shape there and doing a good job on special teams. So, as we look at it, it's going to be a big challenge, and I think, first and foremost, you start with the quarterback. He's a really good football player. And, if you think about it a little bit, I remember, I don't know where I was, they played a Friday night game. I think his first game to open the season a year ago, and it wasn't a good outing for them or the quarterback necessarily. And just look at over the last year and a half how that thing has just changed. And he's playing at a real high level right now, and as is their team. So, tough start to the season a year ago, and the transformation they've gone through is really, really impressive. So, again, short week for us. We started cranking pretty hard on Sunday, I'm sure just like they did, and things get squeezed down. Our off day will be on Saturday, so we're trying to get a lot done right now, and before we have to travel on Thursday and then wait around for the game. So, all that being said, we know we have a big challenge, and hopefully do a good job. And then last but not least, our kid captain is a 9-year-old from Des Moines, Braylon Chrissinger will be our kid captain. So our best to her, certainly, and throw it out for questions.
What is the biggest challenge with the condensed week? Obviously some experience with Nebraska, but that's no class situation.
Yeah, you just, you try to steal notes from that, and the biggest thing is, you still have the same amount of work you normally would do, just less time to get there. It's not quite as bad as playing on a Sunday in the NFL turnaround, playing Thursday, but there are a lot of parallels. I think you have to really try to figure out real quickly what it is you want to try to do and make sure your plan's fairly concise, because the biggest thing, it's like any week, you got to make sure you can get the information across to your players where they have a chance to execute it. So then the other thing is, you want to get as much work as you can get done, but you don't want to use up the same amount of energy you would in a game week, because there's not that recovery time from Wednesday on, what we typically enjoy.
When you look at the running game right now, I mean, it seems like there's either they're overwhelmed with numbers, or there's just sometimes one person is not making their block. Is that just due to inexperience right now, and in what ways can they grow and become a better unit?
It's offense in general. Typically, it's usually a group thing, but I'm just sitting here right away. One thing I think of is one of the disappointing plays. There were several on Saturday, but Looked like we had a little momentum, and then we tried to run the around, and the ball ends up going backwards, I think 15 yards or whatever it was, so we lose yards off our run total. But the bigger issue there is just like that's a play we've executed without issue in practice, and we didn't do it on Saturday, and that's the only day it counts. So just a good illustration. I think part of that's concentration. That takes into your run totals. Bigger issue there is it kills momentum. You know, we had a little momentum at that point, just hit a big play. Now we go back, however many yards it was, kind of takes air out of the balloon a little bit, and luckily Caleb came through with a good field goal attempt at that point. But you know, those are the bigger concerns. I think, you know, the little, you know, if you run it up in there for 1 yard or something like that, doesn't kill you, but those kind of plays really kill drives, and that's just all part of execution. And, you know, a lot of it's concentration, a lot of it's just, you know, a little bit more experience and reaction to whatever situation might present itself.
What about is Kyler Schott in line for some more reps? How about Justin Britt? Will that help reinforce things this week?
Yeah, Justin's been able to practice. I'll start with him, so that's encouraging and looks fine. And yeah, I think Kyler's gaining ground. So with every week, you know, we expect to see him play more and more, and that'll help us. There are two guys who are a little bit older, certainly, but Kyler especially is experienced.
Something you see helping the run game. I mean, you got a lot of young guys out there still, and
yeah, it should help us, but it's not the total answer. Yeah, we just have to keep getting better. That's the biggest thing. Just keep working at it. And as I said Saturday, I think I said, you know, it's a little bit of. I think we got to provide better direction, maybe a little better scheme, and then got to execute better. So it's a combination of both things. Try to figure out what we can do well.
Obviously, you guys were trailing in the second half for the first time last week, and I'm sure you'd rather just lead every game and don't miss the whole time. But Tyler Linderbaum said he thinks it was good for those guys to face that adversity, and you know, after you look back at it, you felt good about the way you guys responded. Do you think it was good to have that adversity, particularly at the end of non-conference play?
Yeah, there's no downside to it as long as it comes out the right way, which it did. You know, it's a happy ending. But that's part of football. I mean, it's really surprising to go 4 games without that, or, you know, go to your 4th game before that happens. And that's we're going to go through more of it this year. You know, you play a schedule. Anybody that's in conference football, you move into conference football. That's part of the deal. So, yeah, we're going to have tough situations. We'll have them on Friday. I'm sure of that. It's going to be a tough environment, and you know, who knows how a game's going to go. You never know that going into it. So it's good training, and I think the biggest thing is we stayed composed, and the guys just kept playing, and you know, made some big plays defensively, special teams, and then we're able to, you know, do what we should do offensively once we got those opportunities.
When you look again, kind of offensively, you know, you mentioned the reverse that went backwards, and there was probably at least 10 yards he could have run positively had he gotten the ball. And then the week before, where you have a receiver fall down after catching a tunnel screen, you had a catch that whatever it wasn't really a catch. Yep. You have all these little plays that just is it frustrating, or does it show everybody, look, we're not that far away, that things can really move if you.
Probably some of both, really. It is frustrating because those are the little things that keep you from really getting into a rhythm and gaining confidence. You know, and that's a little. Sometimes there are a couple run plays I'm thinking of in particular. I think it's like 47 and 52 on our sheet, where we're this close, just, you know, popping one up the middle. But close doesn't count, as we know. But it's so there are little things in there that if we're just a little better on an angle, or, you know, a little bit more delay here as you're coming through on a block, that type of thing. All of a sudden now the back's, you know, up into the secondary, and, you know, a guy like Tower might be able to do something with that. So those are the little things I think all of us kind of take with us, and we try to get, you know, make those illustrations on Sunday to our players, and then the trick is to go out there and execute those things a little bit better as you move forward. And that's the difference between winning and losing a lot of times. It really is. And if I just point out that one play, because that was a simple execution that we've done. It wasn't anything above and beyond, and, you know, you got to make the routine stuff. You got to do the makeables. You can do those well, and you got to do them consistently. It starts there.
Spencer obviously had a lot more deep throws. Do you see that happening in Maryland, Penn State, kind of going forward in Big Ten play?
Yeah, it's just part of what you do, hopefully. And you know, typically the percentages go down you know, the further you throw it down the field. But that you know, it was good football, and you know, we had a couple guys beat deep, so good that we could execute those. And to that point, last week was a better week for us completing deep balls in practice, whereas, you know, a couple weeks prior to that, you know, I wasn't so sure how many of those we were making. In fact, I'm pretty sure how many we weren't making, and that's a concern, because if you're not doing it in practice, it's not going to happen in the game. You know, you got to hit it in rhythm out there in the field, the practice field first.
Is there a point where you want to settle on best 5 for the offensive line, and have you reached that point?
No, I mean, we certainly haven't done that, and if that happens, great, and if it doesn't happen, that's okay too. We'll play it however it plays out. I would assume once Kyler gets himself in game shape, he'll be playing more because we've already seen him play, and we know he can play pretty well. But everybody else is doing some good things too. So it's just kind of how it pans out. And I'm not smart enough to know where we're going to be here in 3 weeks. But I think it's going to be a pretty dynamic process for a while, and we'll take it week by week and then see where we're at during the bye week.
You've always tried to almost accelerate a good young offensive lineman in there as a rotational guy. I think back to Austin Blythe or Brandon Sheriff and a few others at guard, and then kind of move around afterwards. Is that kind of the pace that you've got right now for Connor Colby as a true freshman, being able to do anything?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in the mix, and mainly because he's starting in the spring. He didn't look like he was overwhelmed. Not that he knew what he's doing 100% and still doesn't, but looked like he belonged in the pack, if you will. And then he's done a lot of good things. So, and he's also struggled some out there, which is totally predictable in practice, and then also in the game field. And he had a couple of plays the other day that I thought he was capable of making, but it just happened a little faster than maybe he thought. That's part of inexperience and youth, and the same thing as the last discussion. We'll just kind of see how it all plays out. But I think he's definitely in that group of 6, 7, 8 guys, and see how it all pans out. I assume he'll keep getting better too because he is young.
I should have done my homework, but did you ever go to Maryland when I know you went 14, like when you're at Maine or Pitt or anything like that? Or is this pretty kind of a unique thing?
We played Maryland at Pitt, and one of the Tices was a quarterback, big tall guy. I can't remember if they were both on the team. I remember they're from Long Island, and I think quarterback, tight end. But anyway, they had a good team. Jerry Claiborne was the head coach. Maine, we went to Rutgers, not Maryland, and we went to Hawaii. But no, I think I've only been there once. I think last 14 was the only time.
I'm just trying to get a sense. Does this feel like a weird type of game for you?
It's still different, yeah. It definitely feels, they're not new to the Big Ten per se, but they're new to us because we've only been there once, and it is different. It really is different, just like traveling to Rutgers was different. So that'll take a while, and I don't know when our next trip out there is, so it may take a long while. We'll see. Right now we're worried about 3 days from now, or 4 days, whatever it is.
You talk about that game in 14. The program is in a different place then than it is now. Is there any value in going back to that game, getting some takeaways from it, and applying it to this week?
Interestingly enough, a couple of coaches were there during that time, but so much has changed since then. I think philosophically and what they're doing. I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying Coach Stewart was the defensive coordinator then too, but totally different scheme. So I mean, lots happened to him in his life and our lives. I think our program, I think I don't want to say turning point is 15, but I think things are a little bit different philosophically. So, yeah, I mean, there's really no use going back to that thing.
Tory Taylor said that, his punting is winning shirt benefits counts the kicks, which is obviously a cause that's close to your heart with the stillbirth. And he said that's really a dedication to you and his relationship that he's formed with you. And I was wondering how, when you heard that he was going to sell these shirts for that cause, what that meant to you.
Yeah, first of all, Tory's one of the, as you guys have experienced, he's one of the neatest people to come through the program. He's just so different because he is, he's not the right word, but it's such a fresh approach to everything because he is brand new to everything about college football. So that's been pretty fun to watch that. So, yeah, and then, as you might imagine, I mean, I didn't find out about it because it was on social media, right? So, I mean, somebody showed it to me. Somebody I'm married to showed me, what he was doing. So that's pretty cool. And, yeah, I mean, Mary, I remember the first time Mary met with the folks from Count From Kicks. I mean, she met with them. Hey, I'll only be gone for an hour. I was in Des Moines. I was at my daughter's house, and she got back like 4 hours later. Typically, that's how we do things. But I got to watch the Celtics. That's actually the first pro basketball game I watched in quite a while, and I was really that was good. So we had a good day. But they're great people, and they've done really great work, and it's really work that should be touted. I mean, it's not just in Iowa; it's a national initiative, and really cool. So for Tory to do that, that's really a very nice gesture on his part, and just it's a shame he doesn't get the benefit from the NIL stuff, but it's the way he's wired. He's really an exceptional young person.
Looking at Spencer, 12 starts in now, we saw in the last game him really throwing the ball confidently down the field. What has it been like, or how would you assess his ability to gain trust of the coaches over the last few years that it culminates in y'all allowing him to throw the ball down the field and to open up the playbook a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we have felt really good about him and continue to feel really good about him. So, yeah, I mean, there's no issue there. And we've had deep throws in our playbook. It just, Saturday they were there, and it's great to see him, be aggressive with the ball and do that. And there's only one play that really stands out, and I think all of us wish we had back. And there were several things wrong with that play, but one was to just throw the ball where nobody can get it, and would have been a better ending there. But that's part of the process, and he'll be learning as long as he's playing, just like all of us are. We're all learning too. So, but we're great. Very thrilled he's our quarterback, and he's doing a good job, and Alex is doing a nice job, too, in the backup role.
When you first started running cash as the primary defense, that was against Minnesota a couple years ago, and they had two receivers, Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman, who they're both in the league now. These two guys are somewhat like that, I guess, in Jarrett and in Demas. How instrumental is that defense going to be, and what kind of strides have you made, like, over 3 years in orchestrating that defense against good receivers?
Yeah, it's really the way the world's going right now in college football. And last week was an exception to the rule. So Justin got a lot of work out there, and typically it's Wisconsin, one game a year in our that we know is on our schedule every year. That we're same thing, but. Pretty much everybody's kind of transitioned now where it's 3 or 4 wides out there, so it just kind of makes it a little better matchup for us. Not that we don't use our normal 40 defense too. And Dane's really allowed us to do a good job with it. He's been really good in that position, so we have confidence with him. And as we look at this week's opponent, that's what we're looking at. They're a team that likes to throw the football. They got a quarterback who throws it well, and really good receivers, a whole group of guys. They all got single digits. They got good size. They have good size besides good athleticism. So it's a tough matchup for all of us in the back end.
To Scott's question, when you go 4-2-5, it usually pulls Justin off the field, but it seems like he's playing so well you wouldn't want that to happen. So how do you deal with that?
That's the tug, and that goes back to that 2000 discussion with Norm. I was convinced we would go nickel, and the next morning he just said didn't want to take LeVar off the field, and in his mind it was a matter of personnel. How do you justify taking a guy off the field and playing another? So that's one of the dilemmas in football that you go through sometimes. And do you go scheme or do you go personnel? And there's some give or take there. And in this case, we just feel like Justin's really moved on. From a year ago, he's really elevated. So it's a little tougher discussion that way. And he does a good job in pass coverage too. So but the other good news is he can play those inside positions. Probably we'd be more apt to put him where Seth plays and then move Seth to Jack's spot if we're going to take Jack out. But it's hard to take all 3 of those guys off. They're really playing well right now, and that's a good thing for us.
A couple of weeks ago, you were talking about the game is coming where you're going to have to score 40 or more points to win. Given the team's offensive stats nationally, through the first 4 games, if that game were to be this Friday night, how confident are you your offense can do that?
Well, first of all, we never know when it's going to come, and I think you guys know me well enough. I hope it never comes because I hate those games. But they're it's part of football too, and we'll just play it by ear. But we'll figure it out. I actually was having that thought today. I don't know what made me, my mind was wandering on the field. But we've done some things in practice at times where it's looked pretty good against our defense. Maybe it was during the 2-minute drill we did this morning. So you do what you got to do, and that's part of football. We don't want to play that way all the time, certainly, but if we have to, we'll do our best. And I've got confidence in our guys. I think we're certainly capable. It's just not going to be our approach, coming out of the chute. That's for sure.
Campbell, he was just named National Player of the Week this week. And how difficult of a choice?
How do you know that?
What time is this? Is it 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, put the phones away. All right?
I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, okay. I intentionally didn't say it because the memo I got said 2 o'clock. So I'm trying to be obedient and mindful and all that stuff. Don't want to get in trouble.
I voted for him too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would have if I had a vote. Yeah.
Along those lines, what does he do so well at middle linebacker, where that's the type of frame usually you're lining him up on the edge, but he's able to play everywhere?
For up to me, he'd be a defensive end or a center probably. So that's I got next on both those, vetoed badly. He's just a good football player, and he is an unusual. He's got unusual size for a linebacker, but he just is. Like most guys, good players at most positions, like they just have a mindset that allows them to really go, and he does things just at one tempo basically all the time, and at least he can't fall out in football. That's one good thing. So some of the issues he had in basketball don't carry over to our sport. But he's really focused. He's very coachable, and boy, he goes hard. And he's got good, some of that's God given, but he's worked really hard to develop what he has, and that's just it's a credit to him, and he'll keep getting better because he's got a great attitude.
You alluded to the basketball practice you and Reese went to after Saturday's game of Campbell's.
Yeah.
In specific, what are your memories of that? Because that was, from what I understand, quite the memorable practice.
Yeah. Well, to the point of Leah's article, I don't pretend to be an expert in basketball or any other sport. Baseball I know a little bit about, but not compared to what these guys talk. I hear people talk now about baseball. Whoa. But you can get a feel when you're at a practice if a team's into it. The coaches were highly organized. It really just flowed. It was really just impressive that way. There wasn't any wasted time. They're all doing things, and they were doing things that most of it pertained to fundamentals. So that part was impressive for me, and. It's like I don't know if escape's the right word, but it's fun to just go watch other people work and watch them do things that kind of pertain to what we do. So enjoyed that. And that was a great group of guys on the team, too. That was evident and, panned out to be true. So that was the year that I think they won their state championship. But you could just feel it in the gym. There was a real good vibe in there. It was just a real positive vibe, but a lot of good work was going on.
He actually was quite a good basketball player.
I thought so. He improved a lot in basketball because he was a foul waiting to happen early. He was. But he became pretty good, I thought.
Going back to Spencer and the play that you referenced earlier where he should have threw the ball away, is that the next progression in his game in your mind, not forcing the ball, or is it maybe another aspect?
Yeah, it's just, I'm not sure people always appreciate how hard a job it is to be the quarterback because it's interesting in this game. You have two quarterbacks that have one interception on their resumes right now, 4 games into it, and that's impressive because they both have so much. There's so many decisions you have to make, and you want to do well, and you want your team to move. But yeah, sometimes the best thing to do is throw it away, or sometimes you have to eat the ball. That's regrettable. You don't want to do that, but so those are hard things. They're just really hard things to get across, and. So it's easy to. I think I may have mentioned this. I think a week ago, Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays ago, I was driving home and listening to Brett Favre and Sean Payton talking about it, and about just sort of throw it away. And Payton made the comment that it's easier said than done. It's not always that easy. And I don't know anything about quarterbacks, but I figure those two guys both know a lot more than I know. And to hear them say that, just kind of reinforces people don't always appreciate how hard it is to be a quarterback. If you got a system, and we got a system where our guy makes a lot of decisions. Same thing with the quarterback we're facing this week. He's the same kind of guy.
Speaking of Tagovailoa, how much of an added challenge is it when he wants to make plays with his feet too?
It's a huge challenge, and I think we've faced them. I think before I talk here, 3 out of 4 weeks. Right, I think I'm correct. 3 out of 4 weeks this year we've dealt with that. Brain farting on who the other. Anyway, but I know the last couple of weeks, and 4 for 4. Although the first game, the guy was coming off an injury, weren't quite as worried. the other guys have all been, guys that were effective pulling the ball down and going. This guy he'll get outside the pocket. So if we let him outside, that's a little dangerous, and he'll do that with ease. It's amazing how easy he gets out there, and then all of a sudden. But he's looking like a good quarterback. He's looking down the field when he gets out there. He will run it, but he's trying to make a play, and that's really scary. So now they force you to stay back in coverage when he's broken contain, and that's a dilemma for any defensive player.
Is their offense similar then maybe to in Indiana, or totally different than anything you've seen so far?
Yeah, it's kind of similar, but it's different. They're I don't know. I mean, they run the ball, but he is the center of it, and they've got a big physical offensive line. They got a stronger maybe group of receivers. The receiver from Indiana is as good as you're going to see, but so it's a different challenge every time you go. They've got really good size on their whole. Quarterback's probably the smallest guy. Everybody else on the offense is pretty good, pretty big guys, big athletic guys.
Maryland clearly is better.
Yep.
Rutgers is better. Penn State, Michigan have all kind of bounced back so far. Has the tide risen in this conference? And if so, is it just rising in the East?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't say yet. And it's kind of like everything in college football. That just 4 games into it, we know what we know, and 4 games into it. There's so much more that's going to unfold here, especially in the next month. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's always been competitive. We'll know more about who's what and what's what. I get into November, but right now everything looks tough to me. I mean, it's just kind of how I look at it, and certainly this week that's what it looks like.
From a defensive perspective and mindset, is there a difference in scheme and adjustments when you go to a game and everyone's flying around, there are 2 pick sixes, versus a game like last Saturday where the 2 teams combined for 80 rushes for like 2.5 yards per carry, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, games have different feels. There's no question about that. And you try to steer a game towards the way you want it to feel, but it doesn't always work that way. So you play it as it pans out. And again, that's something. It's really hard to gauge going in. You think and all that kind of stuff, but you just never know what's going to happen or how it's going to go. And that's, to me, why you have to have flexibility in your system to be able to play it out however it may unfold, because you just never know. And you never know what's going to happen in a game either. Sometimes things happen that are inexplicable, but you still got to deal with it. So, you got to push forward and try to find a way to adjust.
Offensively, Iowa's still last in the Big Ten in total offense, but of course, defense has kind of been the key to success these past 4 games. How long do you think you can write out that strategy, and you're hoping to, I guess, increase that production on offense, and how are you going to go about that?
Yeah, I mean, as you might imagine, our team goal is not to be last in the league offensively, that's for sure. To be 4-0 right now is as good as you can do, so happy about that. And we're doing a lot of really good things, and it's just, there are things on defense, too, we can get better. I mentioned 3rd down, I think, the other day, or at least I'd mention it right now. So there are things that we can do better there, and it's every week you're just looking at what can we do to move forward, and, we'll worry about the stats and all that stuff when the season's over. Right now it's just what do we have to do to win this week, but with a bigger eye on improvement, too, and that's where your eye's always on. That's really the race we're all running, is how good can we become in any certain segment or area, and try to analyze what's not working, what can we do to make it better, and just kind of take it week by week.
What's Nico regaining like as a player and person?
Well, I think as a player he's probably really underrated. He's a really good football player. I don't know if clutch is the right word, but he's a really dependable. And just I think has a knack that way, and it stems from he's a competitive person, really very, very competitive. And what I didn't know is his dad played baseball for UConn. I did know that. I didn't know he played for my freshman football coach, Andy Baylock. A little connection there. But so there might be a little bit of a genetic, competitiveness, because I know Andy's very effusive about his dad as a player. He just really nothing but great things. And Nico's he's all football player.
Flight, different than going to Ames, so a different kind of road trip. But what did you learn from your team with what happened with Iowa State that you can maybe take into Maryland and beyond.
Yeah. One interesting, to your point, we have 2 plane trips this year. And, first 7 games, part of our schedule, we're out of the state once, so that's something I did notice. So this is a little bit unique there, but that's what I told our players this morning. We expect a very hostile environment. Sounds like it's going to be a sellout, a blackout, who knows what kind of stuff they'll have going there. But that's conference play, and I can't imagine, the environment we're in a couple of weeks goes as tough as it's going to get. So expect this to be the same way. And, the trick is to somehow, block that out and concentrate on the task. So that's what we have to do. And, it's not like we're taking a bus or a stagecoach. I mean, at Maine, that's different. Okay, we talked, bus into Rutgers, that's an away trip. Okay, flying to Hawaii with however many stops, we made about 4 stops to get there. That's an away trip. So it's not like this is, stressful to fly, whatever it is, an hour 45. And, I mean, shame on us if we complain about that.
Does playing at Maryland do anything for you in terms of recruiting?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt, I guess, but we don't make a living necessarily on the East Coast, so that's not in our thoughts right now. Yep.
Obviously, this isn't your first Friday game. Are you starting to like these, or do you prefer the Saturday?
I'm okay, and this makes the October deadline, so I'll say I'm okay with October on. I wouldn't like it in September. Certainly wouldn't like it early season. Unless it was the first game, then you have, just start camp a day earlier. So there's some disadvantages to it, obviously. But I think we're far enough into it but it's going to be a test, how can we handle this week? What's our maturity level that way?
You talked about these short weeks 3 times last year because you guys had two Friday games and there was the...
Affects your Ross Day, too, on Michigan State. Took Tuesday off. I'm joking. I used to have the players, and I walked out of the room, I'm thinking, these guys have no idea what Betsy Ross is. They Googled it. Ryan Gersonde Googled it. But anyway, sorry.
Anyway, you won all 3...
You gotta go? Okay.
Well, history lesson for everybody. You won all 3 of those games last year. We talked about those short week preps. Those guys feel like they have confidence in how these weeks work. Do you feel like there's something that you guys have figured out on that subject, or is there something you do better than people, or was it just you just happen to be better on those 3 games and had nothing to do with the short week?
Yeah, and we played pretty well, I think, and typically we do. But again, it gets back to how well the team can handle the adjustments, and that's we're all creatures of habit, especially in sports. We love our routines. And I'm, coming out of the pandemic, it's been one of the great things to get back in a routine. But the facts are, this shakes things up a little bit, and it's just, you have to be adaptable too, especially in sports. So, but it's easy for me to say, okay, this is what we've done, so we'll just do this again. The players have to make that adjustment, and they've got to handle it well, and they got to realize, we can't work as hard physically. It's not realistic, and can't put maybe as much time in because you lose a calendar day. So, how do you budget that into all the other stuff that you got? And our players have a lot on their, like all college football players, they got a lot on their plates. So, it's a challenge for them to prioritize it, figure out how to make it work, and then pull it off and realize, we'll all catch our breath on Saturday now this week instead of a normal off day.
Subject to physicality too. We talked to Jack Campbell earlier, and he's got a cut up here in his face, and his shin has dried blood all over it. He looks a little bit like he's just been in a street fight. And I asked him if there's anybody, he was in 18 car accidents on Saturday. And is there anybody who's watching, paying attention to that? How do you handle? Especially when a guy is particularly physical like that on a short week, do you have to look out extra for guys like that? Because he said he's like, I'm not going to come to them and tell them.
Yeah, some players you have to pull back or pull out of practice sometimes, and those are good players. We like to recruit those guys, and because they help set tempo in practice. That's really, but yeah, that's our job as adults is to figure out, how much, how little, and I think if experience teaches you anything, if you're ever in doubt, do less. That's kind of the moral of the story. That's true pretty much year round, I think, right now, and that's certainly in an off week. We're not going to make a difference by going live contact. That's not going to make the difference Friday. Shame on us if we think that is. Yep.
Most of your offensive linemen are pretty versatile, can play multiple spots. But when in the spring, Cody Ince was slated for outside, but then he couldn't practice, so you kind of left him inside. Has there been any more discussion about shifting him around, or is he pretty much stuck at left guard this year anyway?
Yeah, if we can just keep him at left guard, I'd be thrilled. You know, we just at some point we got to get things solidified and figure out what the equation is, and it's twofold. I think we have enough guys at tackle. I didn't know what that would look like. None of us knew what that looked like throughout spring practice. I think now we're far enough along where we feel like, yeah, he can stay on the inside, and you know, he's also prior third center as well. So that's enough for him to focus on. But if you know, get a hole in the wall or something like that, you got to fix it. So hopefully we don't get to that point. But I think we've pretty much got boundaries for every guy now, and it's just a matter of getting everybody healthy and getting them the work they need, and just see how that all starts to move forward.
Your players talked about the importance of rest this week and getting as much rest as possible. And I noticed that the majority of them ride mopeds to class. I was wondering if that is something that is preached from the coaching level, or if that's just a personal choice by the players.
It's we can credit the parking department or the parking ticket folks, and that, I mean, it's not just here. It's every college campus in America, right? But it's the one way, you know, for players to have cars on campus. That's just, nobody can afford that. So I think they've all found that as a way to get around. But the rest part is important, and you know, I just asked them to be mindful. I mean, we played in 2 pretty warm games early off, you know, I mean, very warm games. It took a lot out of us, and then, you know, you played the other day. So there's a cumulative effect. If you're not careful during the course of the season, you get worn down. And young guys think they're, you know, invincible and all that, but it's just there's an advantage to be gotten or lose if you're not mindful there. So I think our guys, for the most part, are pretty good that way. At least they pay attention. Now, you know, what they do after that, I don't know, but I think they're pretty good about that. Okay, thank you. See you out there.
Thanks. I did just Google.
You didn't know that good.
Then AP USA.